Picture this. You're grabbing coffee at work when you witness your boss crossing a line with your fiancé. Your blood boils, you're ready to storm in, but then you freeze. Because her reaction isn't what you'd expect. She's not shocked. She's not angry. She looks guilty. And suddenly you realize this nightmare might be bigger than you imagined. I caught my boss with his hands on my fiancé in the break room. But here's the thing that's eating me alive. She didn't push him away immediately. She hesitated. And that 3-second pause? It's playing on a loop in my head like a bad movie I can't turn off. 3 seconds. That's all it took to unravel every belief I had about her, about us, about the life we were about to build together. Hey, story lover. Welcome to the Narrative Hub, Reddit Stories. Believe me, this adventure gets wild, but it's only epic with you. Seriously, you make this possible. Want more stories? Greater adventure? Smash subscribe right now. Smash like. Comment below. Let's go. The coffee machine hummed its familiar tune, steam rising from the bitter brew I'd made countless times before. But nothing felt familiar anymore. The fluorescent lights cast harsh shadows across the linoleum floor, and I found myself memorizing every detail of that moment. The way the light hit her auburn hair, the exact shade of her lipstick, the pattern on his tie. Details that would haunt me for weeks to come. I stood there, hidden just beyond the vending machine, heart pounding in my ears so loud I almost didn't hear the words that followed. She didn't scream. She didn't say no. Instead, she looked around nervously, not for help, but to make sure no one saw. But I did. And now I can't unsee it. The way she moved, it wasn't the rigid tension of someone uncomfortable. It was the practiced grace of someone who'd done this dance before. Her fingers didn't tremble when she touched his arm. They knew exactly where to go. I thought I was witnessing workplace harassment. I thought I was about to be the hero, the protective fiancé storming in to defend the woman I loved. But instead, I was just another idiot discovering the truth too late. Her eyes, when she finally pushed him off, didn't scream innocence. They whispered complicity. There was history in that glance. Familiarity. Richard Martinez had been my boss for 3 years. I'd respected him, even admired his work ethic. We'd grabbed beers after particularly brutal deadlines, talked about our dreams, our futures. He'd congratulated me on my engagement, shook my hand with what I thought was genuine warmth. "You're a lucky man," he'd said, and I'd believed him. Now I understood he knew exactly how lucky he thought I was. She adjusted her blouse, muttered something I couldn't catch, and then they both laughed. Laughed. Like this was some inside joke between them. Like I was the punchline. The sound of their laughter cut through me like glass. It was intimate, conspiratorial. The kind of laugh shared between people who've crossed lines together before. I wanted to vomit. I wanted to scream. Instead, I stayed frozen, watching my entire world crumble in real time. I should have walked in. I should have said something. But instead, I walked away. I didn't want to hear any more, see any more. My mind was already filling in the blanks. How long? How many times? How deep does this betrayal go? The walk back to my desk felt like a death march. Every step echoed in my skull, each footfall a reminder of how blind I'd been. My coworkers chatted about weekend plans, complained about deadlines, lived their normal lives while mine imploded silently beside them. I sat at my cubicle, staring at the engagement photo on my desk, her radiant smile suddenly looking like a mask. I always trusted her blind, stupid trust. Until that moment. Now every late-night text, every unexplained overtime, every moment she came home distracted, it all clicks. I thought I knew everything about her. But I didn't know this. Sarah Chin. We'd met at a mutual friend's housewarming party 2 years ago. She was discussing literature with a passion that made her eyes light up, gesturing wildly as she defended some obscure author I'd never heard of. I fell for her mind first, then everything else followed. She was ambitious, driven, everything I thought I wanted in a partner. Apparently, she was more driven than I realized. There's something dangerous about watching the person you love in the arms of someone you hate. But it's not just the touch, it's the way she acted like it was normal. Like it was routine. And that makes a man spiral. That makes a man question if his entire life is a lie. That night, I couldn't eat dinner. Sarah made her famous stir-fry, chattering about her day while I pushed vegetables around my plate. She seemed different somehow, more animated, more alive. I'd attributed it to a good day at work. Now I wondered if she was still glowing from her afternoon encounter. "You're quiet tonight," she said, reaching across the table to touch my hand. The same hand that had been on Richard's arm hours earlier. I flinched. She noticed. "Headache," I lied, the first of many lies I'd tell to protect a truth I wasn't ready to face. "And I'm spiraling. I'm questioning everything." Sleep became elusive. I'd lie awake next to her, studying her face in the dim light filtering through our bedroom curtains. She looked peaceful, innocent even. But I'd seen behind the mask now. I knew what she was capable of. Every soft breath, every unconscious movement felt like a betrayal. I started noticing things I'd overlooked before. The way she always volunteered for late projects. How she'd started dressing differently 6 months ago, more professional, more polished. The expensive jewelry she claimed was costume, but looked suspiciously real under certain light. What do you do when you realize your future wife has been playing you for a fool? When the man who signs your paychecks is also the man undressing your trust behind your back? I wanted to confront them both, tear down the whole charade. But then another thought hit me. What if she lies? What if they twist it and I end up looking crazy? The corporate world is built on relationships, on trust, on the ability to maintain professional facades. Richard had 20 years of experience, a sterling reputation, and the backing of upper management. I was just another mid-level employee with a grievance. In a battle of credibility, I'd lose before I even began. I needed proof. Evidence. Something concrete before I blew everything up. So I started watching. Quietly. Patiently. Tracking their patterns, their interactions. I took notes, snapped photos when I could. Each piece of evidence was another nail in the coffin of our relationship. The transformation from naive lover to calculating investigator happened gradually. I learned to move through the office like a ghost, memorizing schedules, timing bathroom breaks to coincide with their meetings. I discovered that Richard's calendar had mysterious blocks labeled strategy sessions that coincided perfectly with Sarah's unexplained absences. I bought a small digital recorder, tucked it into my jacket pocket during office interactions. Most conversations were mundane, but occasionally I'd catch something, a comment too familiar, a laugh too intimate, a reference to something they shouldn't have shared. The evidence folder on my laptop grew thicker each week. Screenshots of suspicious text messages she'd left open. Credit card statements showing lunches at expensive restaurants during work hours. Hotel parking receipts that didn't match any business trips I knew about. And the more I uncovered, the uglier it got. It wasn't just a fling. It was an arrangement. A trade. Promotions, bonuses, all paid for with loyalty of a different kind. My fiancée was sleeping her way up, and my boss was more than happy to offer the latter. Sarah had been promoted twice in 18 months. I'd been proud of her, bragged about her success to friends and family. She's incredibly talented, I'd tell people, and I'd believed it. Now I understood that talent came in many forms, and hers had nothing to do with her job performance. The most damning evidence came from an overheard phone conversation. Sarah thought I was in the shower, but I'd snuck back to grab my phone charger. Her voice carried through the thin walls of our apartment. "Can't keep doing this forever, Richard. What happens when we get married?" A pause. Then laughter. "Married? Sarah, you're not seriously going through with that charade, are you?" Another pause. Longer this time. He's a good man. And it's good cover. No one suspects anything when I'm engaged." My knees nearly gave out. I gripped the doorframe, forcing myself to keep listening. "Smart girl. Always thinking ahead. That's why I like you." I thought I was building a future. But the truth? I was just an accessory to her ambitions. A placeholder. The wedding planning suddenly made sense. Sarah's enthusiasm for the big day, her insistence on inviting colleagues, her suggestion that we ask Richard to give a speech. She wasn't planning a wedding, she was orchestrating a performance. I was the unwitting star of her elaborate deception. Our shared apartment became a stage set. Every morning, she'd kiss me goodbye with the same lips that had been kissing my boss. Every evening, she'd ask about my day while calculating how to use the information to her advantage. The woman I'd proposed to on a moonlit beach in Santa Barbara was gone, replaced by a stranger wearing her face. Now I'm standing here, 2 months from our wedding, holding the weight of her betrayal in my hands, literally. Photos, messages, receipts. I could end it all with one confrontation. Expose them both. Burn it all to the ground. The manila envelope sits on my kitchen table like a loaded gun. Inside, printed emails, photographs, financial records, recordings. Everything I need to destroy both their careers and any hope of salvaging our relationship. The wedding invitations are stacked beside it, a cruel irony that makes my stomach turn. I've drafted the email to HR 17 times. Each version gets more detailed, more vicious. I've imagined the confrontation 100 different ways. Sometimes I'm calm and calculating. Sometimes I'm screaming. Sometimes I just walk away without a word. But here's the question that keeps me up at night. Do I walk away quietly, or do I make them both regret ever thinking I was blind? The answer came to me at 3:47 a.m. on a Tuesday, as I sat in my kitchen staring at that manila envelope. Sarah was asleep in our bed, probably dreaming of her next promotion. The moonlight streaming through the window illuminated the wedding invitations, and something inside me crystallized. I wasn't going to be their victim anymore. I chose nuclear. The next morning, I kissed Sarah goodbye like always, watched her drive away in the car I'd helped her buy, and then I went to work. But instead of my usual routine, I made copies of everything. Triple copies. Digital backups. I wasn't leaving anything to chance. My first stop was HR. Margaret Winters, the director, nearly choked on her coffee when I laid out the evidence. Photos of Richard and Sarah in his office after hours. Hotel receipts. Text messages I'd managed to recover from Sarah's old phone. The recorded conversation where they discussed using our marriage as cover. "This is extensive," Margaret said, her face growing paler with each piece of evidence. "I'm thorough," I replied. "I also have copies going to the executive board, the legal department, and our biggest client, the one Richard's been courting for 6 months with Sarah as his junior associate at those late-night dinners." Margaret's hands shook as she reviewed the timeline I'd constructed. "You realize this will destroy both their careers?" "That's the point." By noon, Richard was called into an emergency meeting. By 2 p.m., Sarah was escorted from the building. By 5 p.m., the gossip mill had ground them both into dust. Corporate moves fast when there's liability involved. I went home that evening to find Sarah's things hastily packed and a note on the kitchen counter. "You destroyed everything. I loved you, but you couldn't leave well enough alone." I laughed out loud. The first genuine laugh I'd had in months. The real satisfaction came in the weeks that followed. Richard was fired, his reputation in tatters. No one in our industry would touch him after word spread about his unprofessional conduct and abuse of power. His wife left him, taking half his assets and their 2 kids. Last I heard, he was selling insurance in Phoenix. Sarah tried to salvage her career, but the professional world is smaller than people think. References matter. Reputation matters. She'd burned through her savings fighting a non-compete clause, and no company wanted to hire someone with her track record. She moved back in with her parents in Ohio. Meanwhile, I thrived. Funny thing about removing toxic people from your life, suddenly there's room for actual growth. I threw myself into work, took on Richard's biggest accounts, exceeded every quota. Without the distraction of managing a relationship built on lies, I discovered I was actually good at my job. Really good. Within 6 months, I was promoted to Richard's old position. The irony wasn't lost on me. I also started therapy. Dr. Rebecca Martinez, no relation to Richard, thankfully, helped me understand that my need for revenge wasn't just about Sarah and Richard. It was about reclaiming my power, my agency, my sense of self-worth. You didn't just expose their betrayal, she told me during one session. You exposed your own strength. She was right. For the first time in years, I felt alive. Truly alive. I moved out of the apartment Sarah and I had shared, found a loft downtown with exposed brick and huge windows. I took up photography. Turns out I had a good eye for capturing moments of truth. I started dating again, but differently this time. I asked harder questions. I trusted my instincts. I refused to settle for pretty lies. 2 years later, I met Elena at a gallery opening. She was sharp, funny, and most importantly, transparent. When I told her about Sarah and Richard, she didn't judge. She just listened and said, "Good for you for not letting them get away with it." Elena and I have been together for 3 years now. She knows the story, knows what I'm capable of when betrayed, and she's never given me reason to doubt her. Trust, I learned, isn't about being naive, it's about being with someone who's earned it. I heard through mutual friends that Sarah tried to reach out last year. She'd apparently gone through a rough patch, lost her job, broke up with some guy she'd been seeing, struggled with depression. She wanted to apologize and find closure. I deleted the message without responding. Some doors, once closed, should stay that way. The best revenge, it turns out, isn't living well despite them. It's living so well you forget they existed. I still have the manila envelope, tucked away in my home office. Not as a reminder of their betrayal, but as a reminder of the day I chose to fight back. The day I decided I was worth more than their lies. Sometimes people ask if I regret going nuclear, if I wish I'd handled it differently. The answer is simple, absolutely not. They made their choices. I made mine. And while they're both still dealing with the consequences of their actions, I'm building something real. My wedding to Elena is next month. Small ceremony, close friends, people who actually matter. Richard and Sarah won't be there, obviously. But in a way, I'm grateful to them. They taught me what I wouldn't tolerate, what I deserved, and what real love looks like. The weight of those 3 seconds, the pause that started it all, is gone now. In its place is something much better, the knowledge that I'm strong enough to demand the truth, smart enough to gather evidence, and brave enough to act on it. Some stories don't end with forgiveness. Some end with justice. Some end with the person who was wronged coming out stronger, smarter, and infinitely happier. This is one of those stories. And I'm still writing it.